Welcome back to another episode of Anderson Alchemy. I'm your host, Brandy Anderson. As a Jungian coach, I focus a lot on the shadow as it relates to finding liberation from conditioned patterns that keep us from our highest life path. And people often think that karma is some magical force exacting judgment and reward as we go about our lives. But karma isn't some mysterious external element. It's the unconscious conditioning that's running our lives. It's the programmed beliefs and internal narratives that play on loop. Carl Jung said, unless you make the unconscious conscious, it will determine your life and you will call it fate. Shadow work is simply the process of bringing awareness to the unconscious elements in a way that frees us from the perpetual cycle of self-sabotaging thoughts, limiting beliefs, and addictive behaviors. Today, I'm going to introduce the shadow and lay the groundwork for future episodes that will at times focus on how to live a more conscious and liberated life. When people come to me for coaching, they often feel stuck and unsure of their purpose in life. They're often wrestling with feelings of stagnation, frustration, depression, and anxiety. Joseph Campbell said, people often say they want to know the meaning of life, but I don't think that's true. What people want is to experience the rapture of being alive. Shadow work is the process of removing the blocks that prevent us from experiencing the rapture of being alive. I posted a reflection on Substack this week titled Do Not Succumb to Panic that really illuminates the self-sabotaging tendencies that keep us stuck in cycles of fear, thereby preventing us from reaching our fullest potential. In the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the phrase, do not succumb to panic, these are only phantoms of your own mind, is repeated again and again to discarnate souls as they enter the bardo between death and rebirth. But we don't have to wait until we die to find liberation in the bardo. Every moment is a bardo. Life is nothing more than a bardo of becoming. The overwhelming urge to slip into panic is what is keeping us from seeing with clarity. It's preventing us from courageously stepping into our highest life path. As we succumb to panic, we become further disconnected from our true selves. We strive and grasp for ground under our feet, pretending and posturing, wanting to feel stable and safe in a world that is unpredictable and forever fluid. At the core of all this frenzied striving is belief in a lie. The lie that we are separate from God spirals us into a desperate attempt to control life. But control is an illusion that perpetually pulls the rug out from under our feet, planting seeds of fear in our hearts. It is the phantoms of our own mind that cause us to grasp for stability in an unstable world. It's only when we remember that we are invincibly one with God that we can relax our grip and let life have us, because it does anyway. When you realize that you're not moving through life, life is moving through you, and you let go of all attempts to procure reputation, success, safety, certainty, liberation begins. Not liberation from the trials and struggles of life, but liberations from the suffering that difficulty often brings. As Haruki Murakami insightfully noted, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Pain and joy are really just two sides of the same coin that is life. Without pain, there would be no joy, just as there is not hot apart from cold or tall without short. We suffer because we resist life. We try to whittle it into what we find desirable and thereby suffer the effects of what we desperately deny in ourselves and in the world around us. This brings us to the shadow. The shadow is what we deny in ourselves. It's important to note that the shadow isn't bad. It's unconscious. It's the hidden aspects of ourselves, things we consider unacceptable, things we reject and shove into the depths of our psyche. But these shadow elements do not go away. They remain below the surface, gathering momentum and sabotaging us. What we resist persists. We have uninvited certain aspects of ourselves to the party, and they ultimately lash out. Shadow work is about welcoming what we have discarded with compassion and care. The shadow is created beginning in infancy, even in the womb, and continues to develop and take on new layers throughout life. Some shadow material is inherited, not just psychologically, but biologically. Jung spoke of the collective unconscious, the inherited archetypal patterns and ancestral imprints that are programmed into us before we even have words. Epigenetics shows us that trauma can be passed down through the expression of genes, meaning that fear, shame, and unprocessed experiences can literally live in the body in utero. And after we're born, we develop a personal connection with the world that we find ourselves in. And any aspects of ourselves that cannot be safely expressed become split off into the unconscious, the shadow. And as I said before, the shadow isn't bad. In fact, some of our very best qualities are shoved into the shadow. We deny any aspect of ourselves that keeps us from being safe, accepted, valued, and celebrated in our family of origin. In an attempt to survive in the world that we find ourselves in, we reject anything deemed unacceptable about ourselves while embracing what is considered acceptable and desirable. This creates an inner imbalance that becomes the current in our lives, propelling us in ways that we're not even consciously aware. It's a powerful current that keeps us from our true self, our essence, our heart's deepest desire. Our shadow elements show up in the form of projections, irritations, shame, or behaviors that surprise us. You accuse a coworker of being arrogant, but underneath you're disowning your own ambition and confidence. Or you judge someone for being too emotional while your own grief or tenderness remains unacknowledged. Maybe a friend's habit of always being late drives you crazy, though you secretly long to be less rigid with time yourself. Or you receive a compliment but immediately deflect it because you are programmed to believe that it's shameful to shine. Have you ever exploded in anger over something relatively small? Then think, where did that come from? Maybe you sabotaged a relationship just when it was getting close without fully understanding why. Or perhaps you say yes to something you don't want and then stew in resentment about it. These triggers are the path into healing and liberation. In order to become free from the grip of unconscious compulsions, we must begin by making them conscious. We cannot be free from what we are unaware of in the first place. This is where mindfulness practice comes in. Mindfulness is the practice of intentional awareness of what is arising within you as you go about your day. I recommend starting each day with a centering practice of some sort. Meditation or centering prayer are great ways to become grounded in the present moment. The idea is to learn to let go of thought, return to the present moment, and notice what is arising within you. As the mystics insightfully point out, you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind your thoughts. Meditation helps put space between yourself and the machinations of the mind. This space allows you to observe thoughts and feelings as they arise with curiosity. And in this space between, you're able to choose another response. Rather than reacting, you're able to respond. Other ways of getting in touch with the shadow is through dream work and active imagination. In fact, dream work and active imagination is the most direct way to engage the shadow. It has been really helpful in my own journey, and I see it really benefiting my clients as well. I've created a guided meditation using active imagination to help you meet your shadow. That practice is available for my paid subscribers. It's available on Substack, and I'll drop a link in the show notes below. If this introduction to the shadow has been helpful, please follow along for more content similar to this by subscribing to my Substack and following Anderson Alchemy podcast on Apple or Spotify. Links are in the show notes below. And before I close out today, I want to remind everyone that I'm hosting a book club for my book, Through the Veil, A Glimpse into the Afterlife. It will begin September 16th on Substack. There will be weekly reflections and discussion threads for everyone who subscribes, and also bi-weekly live Zoom discussions for paid subscribers. All live discussions will be recorded and available for replay on Substack. All you need to do to participate is grab a copy of Through the Veil on Amazon. It's available in paperback, Kindle, or Audible, and subscribe to Brandy Anderson Substack. My handle is Brandy the Mystic, and I'll drop a link to the book club below. And don't forget to check out the guided meditation for getting in touch with your shadow. May we learn to walk with awareness so that even in the dark we remember that we are not lost. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Anderson Alchemy. As always, cosmic blessings and peace.